Alright, so what I've done to start with, we're now at the range with the Bushnell 3.5 to 21 DMR II. And what I've done is I pulled the bolt out, I sighted through the barrel at a 50-yard target, then I sighted in the scope to basically match that 50-yard target and get them pretty close. Should be enough to get us on paper. That's basically the way I bore sight. A lot cheaper, don't use any extra equipment. All I need is a way to steady the rifle. So now we're going to go ahead and put the first round on the 50 yard. I've got just 2 loaded out of this box, last 2 from this box. We're shooting the Hornady factory 140 grain ELDM. I bought a few boxes on sale. That's what I'm going to use for my brass for my initial loads. So hopefully 2 rounds should get us pretty close on the 50, and then we can move to the 100 and start to see how it actually does. So here we go. Alright, first round, a little high and left. Made some adjustments. Going to fire 1 more round. See if we need any adjustments from there. But that should get us close enough from there that we'll at least be on paper at the 100 yard. Alright, from that we're going to go ahead and shoot a few at the 100 yards. We'll see where we're at as far as if we need to make an adjustment before we shoot a group, but I may just, as long as it's not too far off, I may just shoot the first group and then make an adjustment after that first group is fired. Alright, so that first shot at 100 yards, it's about 3 inches high and about 1 inch left. I think I'm going to go ahead and shoot a group at that, 5 rounds, and then we'll move it from there. Make sure that that's an actual good impact point. Alright, so go ahead and make some adjustments and fire another group. Alright, so there's 2 things that we're going to set on here today. One of them is going to be the actual 0, and that's what shows up you want the actual zero on the turret to line up with your center line here. So that's one thing that we're going to reset, because we're at about 4.9 mils is where we zeroed. And then the other thing we want to set is the windage 0. But then what we want to set after that is the Revlimiter. So we want to make sure that it actually, when you crank it down, it stops at our 0. So to reset the 0 is very easy. We're just going to remove this top cap with a screwdriver or a coin. And you want to hold on to it, make sure that you don't let the reticle turn, or the knob turn, while you're doing this. Once you take out the cap, it's just a very easy, this comes right out. All you want to do is just line it up. Once you line it up, you just tighten this cap back on. And that's very easy. If you adjust your 0 a little bit, this just resets the display on the scope to your 0. One kind of different thing with this is it actually has a line on the top that points forward. So when you have it set to the 0 here, it points forward. If you're kind of above your rifle, it gives you a visual reference. And we're going to do the same on the windage. For this one, since the windage pulls out, I just went ahead and pushed it in. That way I couldn't make it even easier to make sure I don't turn it. I'm going to release the cap. And I'm going to adjust it to 0. Alright, so now both our zeros are set on the elevation turret and on the windage turret. Alright, so now we're going to set the rev limiter so that we can actually set our hard 0 stop. So we're going to start the same way. We're going to go ahead and pull off the cap. So we're going to hold it in place while we loosen it. Pull off the cap and set it aside. So the 0 stop is this actual black piece here. And what we want to do is we're going to be loosening the 3 Allen bolts on the side and then screwing this down in so that it stops. So each one of these needs to be loosened about a turn and a half. Okay. And then we turn the actual black part here clockwise until it stops. Okay. Then we're going to replace our elevation turret, and we want to make sure that our 0 is set properly. And now we're good to zero. Now we're good to shoot again. So now, as you dial for elevation, if you get past that initial revolution, you should always be able to come straight back and stop it at 0. You can also, if you want to dial below just a little bit, I know some guys like to be able to dial underneath the 0 just a little, so you can dial down a few tenths of a mil, half mil, 1 mil, whatever you feel comfortable with. So maybe if you shoot different loads out of the rifle and you need to be able to adjust down, or you just like to have that downward adjustment for a really precise close shot at a match, all you need to do basically is just dial it to whatever you want it when you reset the 0 stop, and it'll let you go back to that number. So we're going to go ahead and shoot it, make sure that our 0 stop and everything is good where we want it, and then if we have any issues, we'll adjust it from there. Alright, so everything's sighted in and zeroed. Feeling pretty comfortable with where it's at now. So you can see after that initial bore sighting and a couple rounds at 50, I was hitting just a little bit high. Actually adjusted the wrong way. So I was initially aiming down here, hit up here, overcorrected back down to here, and then here's the 4th group and the 5th group. 4th group was starting to come along pretty well. A little flyer that was me. 5th group definitely wasn't as small as I would like. So then after we did the 0 stop and the turret zeroing, I went back, shot again to kind of confirm where it was at. So group here, 2nd group after that, and then 3rd group. So still a little bit, I would say, as I kind of talk about these groups, I'll try to edit in some images with the actual measurements. I don't have anything with me to measure out here, but I'm saying that I'm guessing a lot of these are probably around an inch or a minute of angle. Not horrible for the factory ammo. I definitely like to get that a little smaller. Hopefully once I start reloading for it, I can shrink those down a little bit. You know, I was definitely feeling like some of these groups opening up might be me. I shot my 260 with the Revlimiter barrel today as well, and you can see I actually, a couple of my groups opened up a little bit, but this was the 1st group, this was the 2nd group. I think that's probably personal record for me with that Revlimiter barrel, 5 shots, 100 yards. So then, and it may be, it's pretty cold out here today. It's about 35 degrees. The sun has been out a couple times, but it's mostly cloudy. And then the wind's gusting about 10 to 25 miles an hour, which fortunately we're inside, so the wind's not horrible, but the cold's definitely seeping into the clothing that I'm wearing. So it is possible that as I shot and they opened up a little bit, some of that could have been from the temperature. But so far I'm pretty pleased. Definitely liked using that scope. Compared it to the Leupold Mark IV that I'm shooting the 260 with, and they're both pretty clear. I would say the Bushnell's very similar, maybe just a little bit clearer. Definitely has an advantage that Leupold only goes to 14 power, whereas the Bushnell goes up to 21. So it was really nice shooting the groups at 21 power and being able to get a nice close hold on these 1-inch dots. Definitely made it easier to get kind of a consistent trigger release knowing where my reticle was exactly on that dot. I know some people have complained about the Bushnell reticle being a little thicker. I didn't really notice that. That may be more of an issue at that high power at a really long range target, but at a 1 MOA orange dot at 100 yards, it was actually a very good thickness for me. So that's the initial range session with the Ruger Precision Rifle with a Bushnell DMR II mounted on it. And definitely looking forward. I just got my dies in the mail yesterday, actually. So I've got a couple different bullets to try. The hard part is finding powder. I've got a couple different powders I can try. The main couple, like Hodgdon 4350 and Reloader 16, that I want to try, I can't find anywhere. So we'll see. I may start with the Reloader 17 and some of those and kind of go from there. And once again, guys, thanks for watching.